The S-400 at Orinberg was built to stop aircraft, missiles, even drones, so why did it miss the only ones that mattered? We'll walk you through the radar spoof, the moment decoys popped altitude to look like strike jets, and how the real attackers went nap of the earth, terrain matching their way to the 56-inch manifolds. Then the EW hit, the link died, and Autonomy took over. The result? A precision thermobaric strike and a fire with diplomatic consequences. If you want to see economic warfare in real time, start here. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. If the S-400 at Orinberg could see fighter jets at 250 miles, why did it miss a handful of prop-driven drones at less than 200 feet? Start with what Orinberg actually is, a $15 billion junction where export pipelines converge, storage fields feed pressure into steel arteries, and winter leverage rides on uninterrupted flows. Around it sits a layered shield. S-400 batteries with search and engagement radars sweep the upper sky. Pantsir S-1 units watch the short-range bubble with guns and missiles, and regional electronic warfare tries to drown hostile links. On paper, the stack is tight. In practice, it has a blind spot baked into the physics it relies on. These systems grew up hunting what flies high and fast. Their radars thrive when a target stands out against the sky with a clear speed vector. Slow movers down in the weeds don't look like that. They smear into the ground, return, and vanish under filters that operators need just to keep their screens usable. That mismatch is the crack. The lower a drone hugs the contours, the more it hides inside the radar's own housekeeping. Here's the plain language version of the radar problem. Look angle matters. The antenna sends beams that graze the Earth at low elevation, and the planet bends away beneath them. Below that lowest beam, a radar shadow forms. Pulse Doppler processing tries to sift motion by speed, dumping anything that echoes like static terrain. That's the Doppler filter at work. It's great against fast jets. It's terrible when a small prop drone matches the background and slides along a hedgerow. Defenders tune filters to cut clutter so operators aren't buried in false returns. The trade-off is that slow, low targets get discarded with the noise. Deep in the rear, assets like Orinberg lived under a safe harbor belief. Distance and strategic air defense layers were expected to make geography its own escort. The assumption held until cheap systems started crawling under the beams. Earlier refinery raids exposed single-point failures. One plant went quiet after drones slipped through gaps between radar sectors, and electronic warfare bubbles then hit a processing unit. The Kyiv Independent later noted a refinery shut down after a drone strike, and that pattern, low cost, high impact, kept repeating. Modern integrated air defense doesn't break only on range, it breaks on workload. Saturation and classification create delay. When decoys show up, they inflate the false target load and force choices. The research describes decoys climbing from 50 feet to 500 feet, switching on active radar enhancers, and blooming on scopes as the radar signature of Su-25 attack jets. Operators react, and every second spent sorting ghosts is a second not spent finding what is crawling under the beams. Once interceptors go up after what looks like a flight of strike aircraft, the board resets, reloads take time, radar modes change to chase the obvious threat, and that switch can worsen clutter discrimination near the deck. Optical trackers and gun crews shift focus upward because the big returns command attention. Down low, recovery windows open. Roads, tree belts, canal banks, and pipeline corridors become tunnels that the radar math prefers to ignore. The irony sits in the feature Orinberg leaned on most. Long-range detection built confidence, but it also set priorities that pointed eyes up and out. The strongest part of the shield became the blind spot when the threat multiplied at ground level and moved like background. The S-400's design emphasized altitude and speed. The Pantsir's Doppler notch emphasized separation from terrain. Electronic warfare emphasized cutting links. None of that changes the curvature of the Earth or the need to filter clutter to keep a scope readable. If the shield was built to look up, what happens when the attack starts by teaching it to look the wrong way? 10 decoys climb to look like Su-25s, so why did the real threat stay invisible until it was feet from the valves? The sequence opened with a 28 drone package splitting on cue. 10 airframes pushed throttle and altitude, then flashed larger than life on search scopes. Lightweight reflectors and simple active enhancers shaped their return to mimic ground attack aircraft profiles. Controllers saw angles, speeds, and radar cross-sections that fit the playbook, so batteries committed. That was the first win. While interceptors arced toward the bright, obvious tracks, 18 attackers stayed welded to the terrain, flying preloaded routes that curled around ridgelines, power corridors, and service roads. Each route was tested in software ahead of time, not for beauty, but for the math that keeps a drone inside radar blind cones and below line of sight breaks. Electronic warfare arrived like a curtain drop. Broadband noise spread across common control bands and satellite uplinks. Defensive doctrine says, break the link and the cheap stuff will meander or auger into a field. For years, that was a decent bet. Not here. Autonomy caught the fall. When the spectrum turned to static, onboard navigation took over without a handover message. Terrain matching compared live altitude traces against stored elevation profiles. Ground tracking used pressure and accelerometer data to hold the deck with small corrections. The drones didn't wander, they tightened up. The routes did the rest. Nap of the Earth flight kept props below hedgerow height on stretches where the radar beam grazed the ground. Roads offered a straight, predictable grade. Drainage lines offered depressions a few meters lower than the fields. Tree belts offered vertical clutter that masked blades and fuselages. Each feature worked like a tunnel. The trick wasn't stealth, it was compliance with the defender's filters. If you move like the background, the Doppler gate lets you pass. If you cross at an angle that keeps your speed vector small in the radar's look direction, you smear into clutter. Decoys shaped behavior in ways that numbers alone don't show. Early missile shots emptied ready racks and cost seconds for reload cycles. Gun crews chased streaking plumes in the high arc where the decoys lived, and optical trackers tilted up to follow bright kinetic stories. Tracking radars switched modes to firm up velocity on the high flyers, which worsened discrimination near the ground. Every change favored the quiet approach. Even the successful kills helped the attackers because intercepts at altitude brewed chaff clouds and debris that cluttered returns and demanded more operator attention. Navigation didn't need a data link sermon to finish. Inertial sensors measured motion from the last known fix. GNSS receivers grabbed short windows of satellite data in valleys where jamming sagged, then fused it with inertial dead reckoning to pull drift back within meters. Vision models looked for road stripes, culvert mouths, fence lines, and distinctive junction geometry to confirm identity and distance to turn points. Jammers could smear a frequency band they couldn't move a tree line or repaint a pump house. The guidance stack trusted the map. The breach focused on the 56-inch intake manifolds because the physics favors them. High-pressure joints sit where steel changes diameter or direction, held by flanges that hate heat spikes and impulse loads. A small thermobaric warhead placed tight against a joint doesn't just punch, it creates a fast overpressure pulse that drives hot gas into gaps, lifts gasket faces, and turns contained energy into a self-feeding fire. Relief valves trip, sensors flag drops, operators isolate segments to keep compression from tearing more joints. Response crews pull back until the radiant heat eases. One clean hit becomes an output loss that outlives the flames. With one gambit, the fight moved from front lines to balance sheets. What changes when energy infrastructure becomes the battlefield? When autonomy pairs with swarms and throwaway decoys, jet-era air defenses turn into balance sheets for pipeline operators. Batteries consume missiles on ghosts, reload, and watch the real cost arrive at valve height. That's not a sortie problem. It's downtime, penalty clauses, and supply contracts on fire. So what matters next? More interceptors won't fix ground clutter. You need smarter sensors at ground level, perimeter lidars, acoustic arrays that hear props through trees, passive RF that spots onboard clocks, and thermal picks along corridors tying into rapid-cued shooters. The next fight isn't for airspace, it's for attention, noise up high, while the war runs along the ground.